Hello friends. Tonight we step into a world shrouded in mystery and haunting allure, a place of terrifying rituals, intense hallucinations, and intoxicating trances that leave the soul lost with no way back. This isn't a tale of glittering pyramids or great pharaohs, but the journey of someone swept into a labyrinth of deities, where the line between life and death is as thin as a wisp of incense smoke. Brace yourselves, because what you're about to hear might make you question your very own existence. Before you lean back and get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel, but only if you genuinely enjoy the content I share, and drop a comment to let me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. It's fascinating to see people tuning in from all over the world. Now, turn off the lights, maybe switch on a fan for some background hum, and let's dive into tonight's journey together. Tonight, we begin with something heavier, a time of smoldering incense, thick beer, and dreams that blur the line between reality and illusion. We'll travel back to ancient Egypt, not to marvel at pyramids, but to truly live in a world where spirituality wasn't just faith, but a chemical experience. Forget the golden statues and mummy movies with epic soundtracks. The truth is, if you were born one morning 3,000 years ago on the banks of the Nile, chances are you'd be high before you even learn to say hello. You wake up, not on a mattress, but on a reed mat, in a silent stone room, with only faint light filtering through a crack in the stone door, and the overpowering scent of incense. Your head throbs like a hippo's dancing inside your skull, your mouth sticky as if you've eaten sand mixed with honey. A priest in a white robe sits before you, his eyes piercing through your forehead, holding a handful of smudged black powder. You have been chosen, he says, as if it's obvious. Before you can ask what for, he starts drawing something on your forehead, cold, sticky, smelling of burnt garlic mixed with clay. You hear chanting echoing from the courtyard, where a group spins around a bull-headed statue. Each drumbeat makes your heart pound like it's trying to break your ribs. You look at your hands, there's blood, red paint, and writing you don't recognize. Your mind spins, memories blur, and a thought emerges. You're not dreaming. This isn't a dream. This is the beginning. And you're in the heart of ancient Egypt, where the air is thick with resin, and the gods aren't something you believe in. They're something you serve, every day, every breath, even when you don't know if you're awake or drifting in a half-real, lifelong dream. You stumble to your feet at the call of a man in a white linen kilt, wearing a necklace of shells and black charcoal streaks on his forehead. He doesn't ask if you're okay. No one asks you anything. They just gesture. They lead. They light another oil lamp, and you follow as if you've walked this path 1,000 times, though every stone slab feels alien, making you wonder if you're truly walking or sliding deeper into this strange trance. Before you stands the temple of Hathor, the mother of music, wine, dance, sex, and illusions. The temple is low, long, painted red, smelling of dried mud, burnt brass, and old blood. Incense smoke curls from dozens of iron censers lining the corridor. Something's burning inside them, and you know it's not just incense. The smell is heavy, like sizzling pork fat, sweet like rotting resin, and sour like sun-baked wine. Each inhale dries your throat, stings your eyes, but somehow you want to breathe it again. No one tells you to. You just feel you need to. Inside the main hall, the light is nearly gone. Oil lamps cast flickering shadows on reliefs of cow-headed women, rattling sistrums, and powerful divine eyes. Before you can steady yourself, 3 women in gossamer thin robes appear beside you. No one speaks, but you understand. You're being led into a ritual. Each holds an object, a clay jug, a strange green branch, and a bell. The one in the middle opens the jug and pours out a cloudy yellow liquid, smelling of rotten eggs and fermented wine. Another brings the branch to your nose. Its scent is so strong you want to gag, but then your feet feel weightless. Your head hums as if a swarm of bees just flew out of your ears. And then the reliefs start moving. No, not from the firelight. The walls are actually moving. A carved woman turns her stone face toward you and smiles. Her stone eyes blink. You blink back. She's still smiling. You turn, desperate to ask someone if you're going mad. But everyone in the temple, the priests, the women, the old man who led you in, they're all spinning. Not with their feet. They spin with their eyes. Each pair of eyes is a small vortex pulling you in. Someone whispers in your ear. This is the first layer of seeing. Hathor permits it. You try to protest, but a silly laugh bursts out instead. You don't know why you're laughing, but you can't stop. You laugh until tears stream down, then double over, gasping for air. But they don't stop the ritual. A bell rings. Someone smears something on your eyelids. Cool, pond burning. And when you open your eyes, the temple ceiling is gone. In its place, a deep blue sky full of stars. The stars don't twinkle, they're still. And then, they start falling. Thousands of stars rain down on Hathor's temple like fire, but no one panics. They keep dancing, keep singing, keep laughing. You want to ask, does anyone else see what I see? But you know the answer. They see it every day. They live in this state. You don't. You're new. You're not aligned. And because you're not aligned, they give you a simple task. Light incense on the altar, but not just any incense. The priest hands you a small bag of reddish-brown pellets. You sniff. No smell. But when you place them on glowing coals, the smoke rises pale green, like sugarcane mist. The first whiff tilts your head to the right, not by choice. You stagger a step. Your heart skips a beat. You can't control your body anymore, but you're not scared. There's a strange feeling, like you're melting into light. Someone says you're being filled with divine essence. A voice in your head whispers, don't resist, let Hathor guide. And you understand, even though you don't. The stone floor beneath you softens like water. You fall without sinking. You rise without moving. The black powder on your forehead glows like embers. The people around you look at you, smiling as if they've been waiting for this moment forever. One whispers, he's starting to see. Another replies, if he stays sane long enough, he'll reach the next layer. The next layer. You want to ask, but your tongue no longer works. Everything in you is dissolving. Memories, name, language. You're no longer you. You're just a link in the ritual unfolding. A cog in a universe thick with smoke and flickering light. And as another wave of hot incense smoke rises, you realize, this isn't the peak. This is just the warm-up. Beyond the great door at the temple's end, where a golden Hathor statue, draped in blue lotus, awaits, another ritual looms, a deeper layer, where you can't turn back, and you don't want to turn back, not because you understand, but because you no longer remember where you came from. Every familiar sensation has been shredded into a million wisps of smoke swirling around your head. A man approaches, face painted gold, eyes lined thickly like ancient mummies, holding a bronze mirror the size of his palm. Without a word, he presses it to your forehead. The mirror reflects nothing, just flickering light, as if your forehead is glowing back at it. A woman in a long robe, painted with divine eyes, steps forward, whispering in a language you don't know but understand. You've reached the threshold of the Ujat, the eye that's opened. You'll see everything, or lose everything. She places one hand on your forehead, the other on your chest, gently, then shoves hard. Everything goes black, but you don't collapse. You fall, literally fall. You see yourself plummeting into a bottomless pit, though your body stands still in the main hall. Your eyes are open, but the images before you tear apart like moving fabric. Grotesque shapes emerge in the flickering light. Human heads on bird bodies, glowing eyes, torsos twisted backward. You don't know if you're seeing or imagining, but you feel it clearly. This isn't a dream, nor is it waking. A smoky river flows across your vision. On it, a small boat of bone and reed drifts. Aboard is a faceless creature, with 3 eyes slanted across its head. It beckons you. Part of you wants to step aboard, part wants to scream, but your mouth is gone. No words, no sound, just a faint, steady drumbeat from far away, or from inside your chest. The woman with the eye-painted robe whispers again, you're between 2 worlds. If you endure, you'll be granted the 3rd eye. If not, you'll remain at this threshold forever. A mindless husk. You don't know how much you're enduring, but you know you can't escape. Your hands begin to crumble into layers of light, as if made of gold dust. You're about to dissolve. And then, in that moment, the Hathor statue at the hall's end blazes brightly. From its forehead, a green beam shoots straight into you. Not hot, not painful, but piercing to your bones. You jolt. Your heart pounds like it'll burst. You open your mouth, and your scream isn't sound. It's light, a thin green smoke curling from your lips, drifting into the statue's eyes. The crowd's chanting hums. The gold-faced man raises the mirror, and this time, you see yourself, but a different you. Eyes wide and unblinking, white swirling, skin metallic, and a smile half mad, half blessed. A priest declares, "The eye is open. The soul has seen the soul." Everyone bows. You don't understand what it means, but you feel it. Your head now hums with an endless whisper, like water flowing backward through your veins. Every light is too sharp. Every sound echoes. You feel the heartbeat of someone 3 meters away. Smell the sweat of someone you've never touched. And then, you see what no one wants to see: yourself. Not your face, your essence, your mistakes, your desires, the memories you buried, all laid bare, projected in the air, like a film. You scream, not from fear, but because you know, from now on, there's nowhere to hide. You've passed the second layer, the priest says. Now learn to keep that eye open. You want to close it. You want to return to the haze of before, but you can't. The eye is open, unclosable. The mind has seen, undeniable. They wrap you in white linen, lead you out of the main hall, and sit you under dim light. No one speaks to you, but everyone looks at you like you're someone else, no longer a guest, no longer mortal. You're now the one who has seen. But the price of seeing is that you can't tell what's real anymore. When moonlight hits the ground, you see glowing symbols. They belong to no language you know, but you understand them clearly. Your body trembles as if feverish, high. Your eyes stay wide, pupils fully dilated. Anyone looking can see you're no longer normal, and deep inside, you know you've lost that normal part forever. A strange sorcerer appears and hands you a bowl of dark red liquid. "To sustain the vision," he says. You drink without hesitation, and then you start to see time. The future flashes by like a shadow play. You see yourself in another ritual, more complex, more terrifying, full of blood and cries. You don't know when it'll happen, but you know that's where you're headed. Because from this moment, you're no longer an observer. You're part of the game, and the game is about to move to the next phase. No more introductions, no more opening rituals. You're given a task, a real job in this temple. Burning incense sounds gentle, almost relaxing, but you've learned the basic lesson of ancient Egypt. Anything that sounds fine hides a dark side that takes your breath away. At dawn, a young girl with heavily lined eyes and a voice like silver bells leads you to a back chamber. It's a sealed, dim room filled with clay jugs, wax-sealed cloth bags, and trays of hot coals always glowing. No instructions, no guidance, just a papyrus scroll with scribbled lines and a pointed stick for stirring ashes. You're given a bag of incense, a mix of myrrh resin, aromatic roots, wood chips, and a bit of shimmering black powder, like metal dust. The task is simple. Place just enough on the burning coals at 7 different altars, twice every watch. The girl says, "Don't mix up the bags, and don't smell what's not meant for you." Her words hit like a warning, but slip out the back of your mind as you start the work. You walk through damp, dim corridors, stone doors ajar, distant chants, humming, and smoke clinging to your skin like a second layer. Each altar feels different. Some are cool, like stepping into a cave. Others are dry, like a lime kiln. You follow instructions, take pinches from the red-marked bag, place them on the coals. Smoke rises, curling, glowing pale green. You breathe deeply. You can't help it. The scent is pleasant, like burning cinnamon bark, bitter honey, and faintly singed hair. Not exactly fragrant, but enticing. At first everything's fine. You feel relaxed, your eyes sharper, your steps light as air. But at the 5th altar, you make a small mistake. The incense bag tears. The bags are stacked in a basket, and as you bend to pick it up, another falls out, unmarked, tied only with a green lotus fiber cord. You don't recall being told not to touch it. You're just curious, and that's the end of your clarity. You take a tiny pinch, barely a fingertip, and place it on the coals. The smoke rises, dark purple this time, thick, with a strange smell. Not resin, not herbs, but burning skin, rotting mushrooms, and something alive. The first inhale makes your face muscles clench. Your heart skips. Your eyes freeze, and then you can't stand steady, but you don't fall. You're still standing, only everything around you starts rising. First, the broken arm statue in the corner. You see its stone arm regrow, then the wall carvings, tomb attendants, spirits, divine eyes. They start moving. Not like before, not a trick of light. This time, you hear their footsteps. A soft moan comes from behind. You turn and see a mummy in a stone niche, stirring. It doesn't open its eyes, but its chest heaves. Panic hits. You want to run, but your feet are held, not by chains, but by thought. You realize you've activated something you shouldn't have. Maybe incense for a soul-calling ritual. Maybe for a resurrection rite. Maybe the remnants of an unquiet spirit. You scream, but no sound escapes. Instead, purple smoke pours from your throat like tiny snakes. And then, a voice echoes in your head. From no one, you've opened the path. Now witness. The carved figures turn toward you. Each gaze is a blade. You feel your body split, one part still standing, the other pulled into the dreams of the dead. You see scenes not yours. A man mummified alive, a girl bound in a sealed temple, a crocodile, sacrificed but still alive as it's cut open. They swirl in your mind like a sped-up film. You collapse, truly collapse. Your head hits stone, smoke floods your eyes. You can't breathe, and then everything goes dark. When you wake, you're in the main hall. Priests kneel around you. One pours cold water on your head. Another asks, "What did you see?" You don't answer, but you know they're not asking out of curiosity. They're checking if you're still alive. And not everyone returns after inhaling the resurrection incense. The woman in the eye-painted robe stares at you for a long time, then whispers, "He touched the forbidden smoke, but he didn't dissolve." And then, a chilling sentence, "Perhaps he's the chosen one." You don't know what chosen means, but you know your task is no longer just burning incense. You've stirred the dead, and you must answer for it, or live with it, or be taken by it. But you're not taken, not then. You're kept, watched like a rare animal, or an experiment with an unknown outcome. After that incident, you're no longer free to wander the altars. Every step is monitored, every meal is brought to you, and every morning, someone else selects the incense, lights the fire, but you're not expelled, not beaten, not drugged into oblivion, as you've heard rumors of. That makes you realize you're no longer an ordinary initiate. You've touched something even they fear, and perhaps because of that, you're invited, in a soft but undeniable tone, to the deepest part of the temple, a place only high priests, those who've seen the end of the living world, may enter. It's a small, sealed room, the only light from a circular hole in the ceiling. There, you see something unlike anything before. Not a mummy, not a statue, not an altar, just a low stone pedestal, and on it, a bundle of dark green leaves, wrapped in fine linen. Beside it, a bowl of black water, and standing there is a man no one names. He wears no silk robe like other priests, no gold, no symbols, but when he approaches, your escorts bow, eyes averted. He gestures for you to sit, then speaks in a hoarse voice. "You touched the smoke of death, and didn't break. Now you'll touch the root of life." He unwraps the linen. Inside is a plant you've never seen. Thin leaves like blades, purple-edged, veins clear like spiderwebs, glowing faintly. He doesn't name it. You know not to ask. Only he may name it. He hands you a small bronze knife, signals to cut a leaf segment. When the blade touches, a milky white sap oozes, and instantly, your heart stings. Not pain. A memory, not yours, floods in. You cut. He takes the segment, crushes it between his fingers, and drops it into the black water. The water shifts from black to reddish-brown, then to shimmering amber, like honey. He hands you the bowl. Your hand trembles slightly. You know you're about to descend another layer. This time, not through smoke, through taste. The first sip numbs your tongue. The second throws your heartbeat off. The third makes you forget who you are. You don't collapse. You don't scream. You just sit, eyes wide, seeing through the temple ceiling, through the sky, through layers of sand and stone, into a dimension where sound has shape, light has taste, and thoughts can pierce your chest. You're standing in a field of those same leaves, They whisper in a language older than hieroglyphs. You understand them. They're not plants, they're memories of gods older than Ra, Osiris, or Isis. Gods never named, because their names are gateways to madness. You touch a leaf, and your hand ignites. But you feel no pain. You feel freed. You run, or glide, or melt through that forest of leaves. A voice from nowhere says, "You've drunk the sap of the source. You've been recorded." When you wake, the ground beneath is cold as a tomb. You're alone in the room, the black-robed priest gone. Sacred bundle is no longer on the pedestal. Only a beam of light, through the ceiling hole, hits your face. Your body feels like it climbed a pyramid, from base to peak, but your mind, too clear, too vast. And that's what terrifies you. You no longer think like a normal person. From that day, everyone you look at seems hollow, as if you see through their flesh to fragments of memory. The high priest appears one last time, saying nothing, just handing you a small cloth bag. Inside, a dried leaf segment, wrapped in linen and tied with human hair. You know this is the mark, proof you've tasted truth, but also a warning you can no longer lie to yourself. When you look in a mirror, you'll see someone who can't return to normal. You tuck the leaf away, hide it in your robe. That night, someone knocks on your door. 3 knocks. Pause. 2 more. You open it. A masked man with a torch whispers, "They want you at the next moon festival." You don't ask who they are. You just know those who've tasted the forbidden leaf are all invited, and not all return whole, or as themselves. The moon festival isn't held in the main hall, but in an auxiliary temple deep outside, near the desert's edge, where there's no light, no crowds, and no prayers spoken aloud. Your guide says nothing the whole way, just carries a torch, hands you a face cloth, and a black ceramic necklace with the Ujat eye. As you pass through a stone gate, carved with Hathor's crescent-horned, sun-disked image, you smell raw yeast, sweat, earth mixed with ash, and something joyful, a harsh joy, like a crowd dancing after an execution. They call it the Festival of Drunkenness. But don't be fooled. This isn't a party with thumping music, beautiful women, and flowing wine. It's a spiritual sacrifice, where beer unlocks the gate between earth and the divine, where you get so drunk, you see Hathor step out of her statue, smile at you, and demand you confess your greatest sin, and if you can't remember, she'll remind you. You're led to a round stone courtyard, a central oil lamp platform, surrounded by people in linen kilts, bare-skinned, hair wild, moaning or laughing sharply. They're no longer citizens, they're the chosen, like you. A girl hands you a clay jug with thick, cloudy grey liquid, fizzing like it's alive. The first beer soothes the soul, she whispers. The second forgets the way back. The third meets her. You drink. The first gulp is thick, like barley porridge with dried lemon peel. The smell is worse, like fermented bread, mixed with leeks and foot sweat. But after 5 sips, your body heats up. The beer doesn't make you drunk right away. It makes you drift, lighter. Your head floats. Your hands soften. Your heart laughs. You can't control it. The world around you starts to shimmer. Not the ground, but people's eyes. Those sitting around you stare, but their gazes don't stop at your skin. They're looking into thoughts, not yet formed. A drumbeat sounds. Men start dancing. Women laugh, scream, then sob. No one tells anyone what to do. Each is in a different layer of reality. One crawls on hands, another scratches their chest, drawing charms with blood. And amidst it all, you laugh. You don't know why, but your laughter bursts like beer foam, spreading through your chest. You tilt your head back, finish the jug, and someone shoves another into your hands. You haven't met the goddess yet, they say. Keep drinking. You drink again. This time, your head tilts sharply left. A deep red light slashes across your vision, like a line of blood drawn between your eyes, and then you see her. No one else. Not an image, not a hallucination. Hathor herself, goddess of music, drunkenness, fertility, and punishment. She steps out of the yeasty smoke, tall, eyes cloudy like jade, lips smiling radiantly, but carrying an unnameable sorrow. "Did you call me?" she asks. You can't answer. You've collapsed, but not asleep. You're pulled out of your body, standing there, watching yourself sprawled on the stone, mouth muttering something no one understands. You turn to Hathor. I didn't call, you say, but I drank. She smiles. Better than calling. Those who drink to the bottom have nothing left to hide. You want to ask who you are, why you're chosen, why you can't go back. But she asks first, do you remember the first time you saw blood? And like a lid, bursting open, memories flood in. You're in a sandy village, your mother crying, your father holding a hoe, a man beaten to death for stealing water. You were 5. You never remembered that. But now you see every drop of blood on the sand. Hathor strokes your cheek. Good. Now that you remember, don't forget, you open your eyes and find yourself being lifted by the crowd, thrown into a warm, frothy pool of beer. The beer cleansing, they shout. You thrash, but can't resist. You've been marked. You're the one who met the goddess, and they must purify you. When they pull you from the water, your body shakes, beer seeping into every pore. You tremble, but your mind is calm. For the first time, amidst the chaos, you're not afraid, not lost. You feel you belong. And as the night ends, with people sprawled across the courtyard, you lean against a bull god statue, head buzzing, heart beating slow like a ritual drum, and think, maybe I don't need to go back. Maybe this is real. A faceless woman sits beside you, handing you a small jar of thick, pale yellow liquid. Drink this. You'll sleep for 3 days. When you wake, someone will guide you to the next step. You look at the jar, then at the sky fading of stars. You no longer know which night this is in your new life, but you know one thing. You've gone too far to turn back, and you don't want to stop. You drink, and darkness swallows you again, softly, like an embrace from the divine. But that embrace isn't gentle forever. When you wake, your throat is parched, as if you've swallowed a heap of sand. Your eyes sting, your mouth is bitter like lion's bile, your head throbs as if struck by a stone hammer. You're curled up in a tiny room, barely big enough to sit upright, with no windows, no bed, just a straw mat and a sealed water jug. You don't know how long you've slept, but when you open the jug to drink, you realize the liquid inside isn't just water. It's a thick, faintly sour substance, smelling of flat beer with a hint of moldy yeast. That's the first time you start to wonder, what are the Egyptians really drinking? After the festival, you're not returned to your old quarters. Those who've met the goddess are kept in a separate area, a kind of spiritual recovery zone, or, to put it bluntly, a brain-cleansing camp. There, you're fed little, made to sleep a lot, and given a lot of beer. But you've come to understand, this beer isn't like anything you'd find in the modern world. It doesn't fizz, isn't cold, isn't light. It's not for enjoyment. It's a ritual, a divine conduit, a powerful brainwashing tool. The man in charge of the beer room is an old man named Menket, long-bearded, skin-dry, always dusted with barley chaff. He never looks anyone in the eye, but knows exactly how much each person needs to drink. For your first time, stick to the light stuff, he says, handing you a chipped clay bowl. You look inside. The liquid is thick, almost like watery porridge, flecked with old breadcrumbs, dark brown like soybeans left in the sun for 3 days. The fermented stench hits your nose like the floor of a buffalo pen. But the terrifying part, it's delicious. Not delicious in a culinary sense, delicious in that your body craves more, even as your mind screams. No, after 3 sips, your body heats up like fire, your head expands like a balloon, and every sound, footsteps, wind, the fire licking the pot, blends into a synchronized orchestra. That's just the light stuff. Menket chuckles softly. The strong stuff could knock out a rutting bull. You think he's joking, until one night, you witness the beer offering to the god ritual. A massive bull, the temple's sacred beast, is led to the courtyard. They pour the thickest beer into a stone trough and make it drink. It sniffs, then drinks. 1 minute later, it staggers. 5 minutes later, it kneels. 10 minutes later, it collapses like a sack of raw meat. Eyes rolled back, mouth foaming with yeast. The crowd claps, jubilant as if witnessing a miracle. You start questioning everything. This isn't just beer, it's a fermented narcotic, a mind control tool, a shortcut to meeting the gods without meditation, discipline, or books. The secret lies in the brewing. Curious, you're allowed to assist in the brewery one day. There's nothing sanitary or standardized, just massive clay vats filled with old bread chaff, damp barley, crushed strange leaves, moldy yeast, scraped from walls, and a white powder no one dares name. The water isn't clean, it's Nile water, from stone hollows or ritual basins, meaning water with blood, corpses, mud, and divine essence. They boil it and cool it 3 times. The beer ferments naturally for 7 days, no intervention, no control. Some batches make people dream of fairies, some make them howl like wolves, some plunge the whole temple into silent stupor for 2 days. You once thought only peasants or lowlifes used this beer to meet the gods, but then you see high priests sipping it alone. You take the cloth, hand trembling slightly. You don't ask why. You know one thing: after the beer, the festival, the forbidden leaf, this is the first time you're about to descend into a place few dare enter, the well of spirit communion. And if gods truly exist, you'll meet them there, or meet something that once was a god, or you'll never return to tell the tale. But you do return, not whole, not normal, but alive, though you barely recognize yourself that day, emerging from the shadow well covered in ash, smoke, honey, sticky rice wine, and blood, whose, you don't know. You can't speak for 2 days. Each time you try, your tongue numbs as if swallowing a sleeping snake. Every sound you make is distorted, like it's filtered through a broken flute. The priests don't ask what you saw. They just look at your eyes, cloudy red, pupils dilated, no longer reacting to light, and nod. It's reached the 7th layer. From that moment, you're separated from your old group. They take you to the area. For those who've touched the gate's crack, you no longer eat with others. You're served alone. You no longer sleep. You're made to meditate in darkness all night. And instead of beer, you're given a thick paste mixed with half-burned mummy ash, called ancestral memory water. Each day, you don't know if you're human, animal, or just a soul fragment falling endlessly. Then, one afternoon, as the sun casts golden light on the stone walls, you're ordered to carry a tray of white lotus flowers to the main hall. A simple task. You carry it in a half-dreaming state, head still swaying like you're drifting on a ghost boat, but you never get to set the tray down. A hand pulls you back, a blindfold covers your eyes, and you're dragged away. No explanation, no words. You're led through corridors, crypts, past stone doors opened only on special occasions. You don't resist, thinking, maybe another ritual, maybe the next step on the path to enlightenment. You even feel grateful to be chosen, until you hear the sound of a blade sharpening on stone, then a moan, then the sharp smell of fresh blood hits your nose like a slap from the god Seth. You realize this isn't a ritual, it's a sacrifice, and the one being sacrificed is you. You try to scream, but your mouth is stuffed with aromatic herbs. You try to struggle, but your hands are bound tight with willow cords soaked in Nile water. All you see is darkness, the smell of copper, and rapid chanting like funeral drums. You hear your name, not the one you knew, but the one the priests gave you, the smoke gate opener. They believe you're the embodiment of an ancient soul returned in this body, and they believe if they sacrifice you at the right time, in the right way, under today's blood moon alignment, the god will emerge, take form, and speak to them. You scream in your mind, "It's not me. I'm not a god," but no one hears, because to them, you're a goat. Not metaphorically. They truly think you're a goat, in your drunken state, dragged in covered in ash, beard patchy, eyes bloodshot, head swaying like you're chewing grass. You look like a sacrificial beast from legend, and a sacrifice doesn't need conversation. Just a knife, fire, prayers, and blood. They place you on a stone table, smear grease on your forehead, sprinkle lotus water on your stomach, and dance around you, muttering, "Open the way, open the way, let him step forth." Then the knife is raised, and at that moment you vomit, a mass of purple foam, undigested leaves, and strange words choked in your throat. The priests freeze. One shouts, "It speaks." Another yells, "Goats don't speak." A third screams loudest, "Stop, it's not a goat, it's a man. It's the one who saw the 7th layer." Chaos erupts like thunder in the temple. You're untied, crawling, half dragging yourself off the altar. An elderly priest, weeping, kneels before you, mumbling, "Forgive us. We thought, you were reborn in another form." You don't respond. You have no strength. You just sit there, body slick with goat blood from the prior ritual, cold sweat, tears, undigested beer, and terror so intense, your heart beats erratically. Afterward, you're taken to a private room, 4 guards at the door, no one dares look at you long. You lie still for 3 days, eating nothing. One thought loops in your mind. I was almost sacrificed because I looked too much like a goat. And from that day, you're no longer invited to any festivals, no beer, no rituals, no meeting gods, just silence and waiting, because surviving a mistaken sacrifice means you're no longer just in training. You've crossed into something else, a being people glance at with half an eye, part reverence, part fear, part curiosity, part shudder. You're the only one alive to tell of nearly being slaughtered for being too high, and like a curse, from then on, you always hear the sound of a blade sharpening on stone, even when no one's sharpening anything. It creeps into your sleep, into the wind hitting the wooden door, into the whispered goodnights of those serving you. You don't know why you haven't left this place, or why no one's expelled you after that horrific mistaken sacrifice. But one thing's clear, from the moment you vomited purple foam and spoke in that strange tongue, you're no longer human, not in their eyes, not in your own. And then, on a waning moon night, as you sit alone in the back courtyard, avoiding all rituals, incense, beer, and prying eyes, a dark figure approaches. He wears a deep red cloak, holds a staff topped with a beast's head, and his face is hidden by a wooden hyena mask. You know he's no ordinary priest. You know because he doesn't walk, he glides. You know because when he speaks, it's not a human voice, but a deep hum echoing in your head, as if your thoughts are being flipped open and read aloud in another voice. He approaches, raises his staff, and without asking, greeting, or commanding, says one sentence: "You've been chosen as the vessel of connection." Before you can react, he removes his mask, and you see, not a human face, not an animal's, something in between, warped, wrinkled, like clay melting under the sun. It's the face of Seth, god of chaos, desert, sandstorms, and violence. But you know, this isn't the real god, this is a man carrying the god within. He's not pretending, not acting. He is Seth in that moment. And Seth isn't here for moral discourse. Seth is here for physical communion, not a sacred union, not a ritual of love, but a forced rite, where the living are made a channel for divine power through body, flesh, breath. You try to back away, but your back hits the wall. You want to scream, but your mouth won't open. You want to run, but your feet are rooted by divine vines. He leans down, places a hot, ash-covered hand on your forehead, and whispers, "Union with the god is an honor. Don't ruin the rite." And then, he begins the ritual. His eyes turn amber red, veins rising like black webs under his skin. No one stops him, no one approaches, because the others are standing around, heads bowed, muttering prayers. You understand this is a real ritual, prepared, permitted, and somehow, you've become its centerpiece. No one asked your consent, because they believe, when a god chooses, no one can say no. But you're not dead, you're not a puppet. And with some strength rising from the deepest part of you, untouched by beer, smoke, sap, or the shadow well, you lurch forward, headbutting his face. The mask shatters, he falls back, the crowd around you panics. A scream rings out, not yours, not his, but the sound of sand. Sand roars from the ground, sand swirls into a vortex around you, toppling the ritual trays, extinguishing oil lamps. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know if another god is protecting you. You only know, as you roll and flee, nose bleeding, heart racing, Seth's voice hissing through your throat like a dying cobra. You've rejected the chance. You'll never be chosen again. You don't look back. You run, through dark corridors, past rooms opened only during eclipses, past stone doors no one dares touch, until you see the first light filtering through a wall crack. You stand, panting, drenched in sweat, back burning from lingering hot ash. And one thing is clear, you've survived a forced divine possession. But that means you've broken the order. You're an anomaly, a deviation, and from now on, no one will trust you. No one will protect you. You'll be watched, tested, pushed into deeper ritual layers where no one wants to go. But still, you know one thing. You kept your will. You escaped possession. And if Seth truly exists, he knows you're not an empty vessel for him to inhabit at will. You're something else. Something even the gods haven't defined. And in that moment, as you see the last moonlight fall on the stone platform, you know the game is no longer just about seeking gods. It's about keeping your soul from being stolen by one, even when they come in familiar forms, with sacred rituals and words as smooth as morning incense smoke. But from that night, every whisper, every offered bowl of ritual water, every hand passing you a drug-filled cup makes you suspicious. Is this a true rite, or a new trap wrapped in gold and fragrance? You no longer trust anyone, not even yourself. Because there are moments when a voice speaks in your head, and you can't tell if it's your thoughts or an ancient memory awakened by something in your blood. And then, before you've even stabilized, another summons comes, this time written on dried hide, inked with lizard bile and incense ash. Tonight, East Courtyard, bring a blindfold and ask nothing. You go, not out of trust, but because you know, if you don't, they'll think you're no longer one of them. And if you're erased from the ritual circle, you won't be spared, you'll be tested. And the final test here often means disappearance. When you reach the East Courtyard, it's pitch black, no moon, no lamps, just dim light from a small fire of dried dung and crushed eggshells. The acrid, fishy, sweet burnt smell of wild herbs wraps around you like a second skin. A man in a jackal headdress stands in the center, holding a stone bowl with thick, cloudy yellow paste. He doesn't name the ritual. He just places the bowl in your hands and says, "This is fish fat mixed with cannabis. Soul calling requires it. Don't smell, apply." You want to ask where, but then you see others demonstrating. They smear it on their foreheads, their chests. Some rub it on palms, soles, temples, even inside their nostrils. You start to understand there's no dosage, only faith or madness. You follow. The fish fat is cold, sticky like pork grease mixed with resin, but the smell is the real blow. So fishy it chokes you, then softens into burnt straw and warm mud, and then you smell voices. Not human scents, human voices. Each breath carries fragmented sounds, children laughing, an old woman moaning, a man shouting, "I'm not done." These sounds don't reach your ears. They slide straight into your heart. You open your eyes. No one's standing still. They begin spinning, not in circles. They spin in place, trembling like wobbling tops, eyes rolled back. Some collapse, limbs twitching. Others speak in voices not their own, hoarse, guttural, or babbling like infants. A man facing you sobs, grabs your hand, and screams, "I failed my mother. I didn't mean to leave her in the field. I just fell asleep." You pull your hand back, but it's too late. Your body trembles, your heart beats off rhythm, your eyes blur, and then, you see, a man steps from the smoke, legless, floating like a wind-lifted robe. His face is stitched with red thread, but his eyes are wide, unblinking. He stares at you and says, "You're opening the door the wrong way." You try to ask what he means, but he touches your chest, and you fall, again, not into a dream, not into darkness, into someone else's moment. A small room, a stone bed, a decaying mother's corpse, the sound of rats gnawing bones, and you realize you're living another's memory. A soul has entered you. The fish fat and cannabis don't just open paths, their hands pulling other souls to cling to you like freshwater leeches. You thrash, but no one helps. They're all busy being overtaken by others. Each person in that courtyard is a vessel, each vessel holding a grudge, a promise, a regret. This isn't the soul calling you imagined. It's lending your body to wandering spirits for temporary residence. And you understand, you're sharing your flesh with a dead entity. From that night, you're no longer alone in your mind. When you close your eyes, someone asks, "Where are we going now?" When you speak, another voice whispers behind your lips, "I don't like how you answer." And when you look in a mirror, sometimes you see different eyes in your sockets. They say soul calling is to speak with ancestors, but you see no ancestors. You see remnants, you see consequences, and you see clearly, this ritual isn't for remembering, it's for binding. You leave the courtyard at dawn, skin slick with grease, eyes bloodshot, heart heavy as stone, and you know You'll never be just yourself again. You're carrying another. And the terrifying part, you're not sure who's in control. But the temple seems to know, not through words, but through glances, through the unnatural silence when you enter a room, through the half-step back people take when you approach. Though no one sees what's sharing your body, you're still allowed to stay. But you're no longer permitted to touch anything sacred. No holy beer, no incense offering.
Speaking of all,
You're relegated to the fringes, where menial servants or those being purified are kept. They say you need time to balance your shadow essence, but you know, they fear you. Not because you're dangerous, because you've seen too much. And then the final drop that gets you fully expelled comes on an unplanned night. You can't sleep. The soul inside you keeps whispering about the journey, about heights, about the ninth sky. Exhausted by the relentless echo, you sneak out of your quarters, walking the corridor behind the main hall, where only high sorcerers are allowed. You don't plan to do anything. You just want silence. But as you near the small room with the always locked stone door, you hear noises, not chanting. A sound like wind whistling through a bronze pipe, mixed with soft metal clinks, and laughter. Not joyful laughter. Laughter from being high. You press your ear to the door crack, and everything changes. Inside, you hear them flying. Not by magic, by a mixture. Some gas from tree resin, mixed with gold powder, burned into smoke in a sealed room, making anyone who inhales it detach temporarily. Not possession, not soul calling, controlled out-of-body experience. One by one, they float, spin, shout, then collapse. You hear lists of forbidden plants to mix, burning methods, smoke dosages, and the acceptable mortality rate. You realize this isn't a public ritual, it's a secret that makes all your past hallucinations, leaf, incense, beer, cannabis, fish fat, mere outer layers of a highly precise spiritual experiment system. And you listened too long. Just as you turn to leave, the door opens. A sorcerer steps out, eyes red like hot ash, face expressionless, still holding a bowl of unspent smoke. He doesn't speak, he just looks at you, and you know, it's over. The next morning, you're summoned. No ceremony, no accusations, just a curt order from the black-robed woman leading the ritual council. You're no longer fit to stay. You ask why, voice rough like sand scraping your throat. She doesn't answer. She just hands you a small bundle. Inside, an old linen cloth, a few pieces of dry bread, and a stone with Hathor's symbol, half chiseled away. You understand you're no longer allowed to bear the full symbol. You're no longer part of the temple. You're someone who was chosen, but saw too deeply. You leave in silence. No one sees you off. No one looks back. No one pities you. They just want you gone before you say something you shouldn't. On the road, your body feels heavier. Not from fatigue, from that soul. It's still there. And now, with no rituals to restrain it, no beer to soothe it, it whispers louder. It wants to fly again. It wants the golden smoke gate. And it doesn't need your consent. Your head twitches. Your eyes spasm. Your hands go cold. You're no longer of the temple. You're not quite of the world. You're an unprotected vessel. And in the sunset glow over the Nile, you understand deeply what all the rituals hinted at. Everything wants to enter you, but nothing wants to take responsibility for staying. You sit by the roadside, on hot sand, passers-by ignoring you. They think you're a beggar, but you're not. You once stood in the main hall. You saw a god's eyes glow. You drank what made a bull kneel. You were mistaken for a goat, heard the dead through fish fat. But now you're a breathing corpse. Homeless, nameless. The only thing that follows you, a tapping in your head, repeating since you were expelled. A long hiss. Fly, 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 fly. And you know you'll never step into the human world the same again. Not when someone else inside you is pulling the strings. Not when you've seen too much. Not when you're something worse than an exile. You are a witness. And like all witnesses carrying forbidden memories, you're not allowed to live near the place where the rituals happened. You have to leave. But where can you go when every village around the temple knows the face of the one chosen and then rejected? The fishing hamlets along the Nile eye you warily. Guards clutch their amulets as you pass. Children steer clear. Dogs bark incessantly. You can't become a farmer who would hire someone with God's eyes in their head. You can't be a merchant. Your words make people uneasy. In the end, you drift west, to the tomb-carving workshops, to newly hewn caves in the mountains, to a crowd laboring all day under 47-degree heat for 2 pieces of barley bread and a bowl of stewed water. They're tomb workers, carving graves for nobles, burying corpses, sweeping bone dust like fallen leaves. Here, no one asks who you are. They only ask, can you do the work? You nod. That's it. You're assigned to the team cleaning burial chambers, where they drag in corpses, remove old wrappings, apply fresh resin, and check for integrity before entombment. On your first day, it feels eerily familiar. The smell of burning resin, the scent of mummy ash, the odor of decaying linen, the whiff of candles and hot copper. It makes you dizzy but also calm. For the first time in days, the voice in your head is silent. The strange soul inside you seems to quiet before the bodies lying in front of you. You do well, very well, until the 7th day, when a foreman hands you a cloth bundle and says, wipe the skull, gently. Don't let the dust get in your nose. But you don't hear the last part, because as you open the bundle, a light breeze blows, sending mummy dust mixed with resin straight into your face. Caught off guard, you inhale deeply, and instantly, everything flips. Your heart pounds, your eyes widen, the world turns a fiery red-brown. You're no longer in the tomb chamber. You're lying down. No, you are the corpse in the wrappings. You see yourself bound tightly, chest coated in resin, eyes sealed with thick black tar, and people whispering prayers by your ear. But you can still hear, you can still feel, you're not dead. Or, you're reliving a death that isn't yours. Your body jerks violently, you collapse, but your mind falls deeper. You see images that don't belong to you. A child forced to drink wormwood-laced beer at 5 years old. A girl sacrificed in a rain ritual. A man buried alive with his master to serve in the afterlife. The memories swirl together, a storm, and in the middle of that whirlwind, you see a pair of eyes, not human, not divine, but of something living in every piece of mummified flesh. It speaks without words, it slithers through your nerves. You let us in, don't expect to get out. You wake in the tomb chamber, drenched in cold sweat, nose bleeding, a foreman slapping you. Get up. You passed out. I told you not to inhale. You bolt upright like someone possessed. Your eyes stare at a blank wall, where you clearly see the shapes of those buried alive, clawing inside their graves. No one else sees anything, but you hear them calling you. From that day, you're moved to work outside, because the workers say, that guy's got the eyes of someone who's seen too much. You don't protest. You don't leave, because you know you can't run anymore. You've inhaled the very thing that once encased death, and it's come alive in you. That night, you don't sleep. You sit by a rock, watching moonlight reflect off a human skull fragment, still sticky with resin, and hear the whisper, you're the bridge, we'll pass through you. You don't scream, don't cry. You just ask, how many? And the whisper replies, thousands. You clutch your head, trying to think of the beer bowls, the rituals, the people who died for their souls to rest. But you know not everyone wants rest. Some of the dead are still hungry, hungry for dreams, hungry to speak, hungry for living bodies to borrow. And you, now, are just a half-open door, not strong enough to hold them, not foolish enough to close it. And the worst part, you're still paid weekly with 2 pieces of bread and a bowl of stew, as if everything you're enduring is perfectly normal. But you know nothing about this is normal, especially when you start to dream. Not short, fragmented dreams interrupted by sweat, the sound of rats gnawing bones or headaches from desert heat, but long, deep, viscous dreams, as if you're buried alive in your own consciousness. In those dreams, you're no longer you. You become someone else, someone who lived thousands of years before you, or someone who'll live generations after. You dream you're an old woman in a dark tomb, drawing on walls with blood-dripping fingers. You dream you're a 3-year-old child, smeared with resin on your forehead for a soul swap ritual. You dream you're walking a long, endless corridor, with hands sprouting from the walls, all trying to pull you in. And the worst part, you're not dreaming alone. Once, during work, another worker suddenly flinches, turns to you, and whispers, last night, I saw you in my dream. We were digging a grave, then your hands turned into claws. You don't react, You don't know what to say. But that night, you dream of him, exactly as he described. And this time, you hold a shovel. But you're not digging dirt. You're digging into his stomach, pulling out a golden scarab. Still alive. You wake with a start, soaked in sweat on your straw mat. But the next morning, that worker doesn't show up. They say he went mad, smashing his head against rocks all night, screaming, "The scarab's eating my heart." You shudder, then stay silent, because you know, from the moment the mummy dust and resin entered your lungs, the boundary between you and the wandering souls blurred. And now, none of you can tell who's dreaming, who's manipulating the dream, or who's just an uninvited guest in another's nightmare. Stranger still, you start dreaming the same scene repeatedly, identical down to the last detail, a boat drifting on a river, hands reaching from the water below, 5 mourners on board, each hiding their face with a different mask: jackal, crocodile, falcon, snake, and one mask with no face. You always stand at the boat's stern. You don't speak, but you know you're the one who must choose one. Each time you try to move forward, the boat tilts, water pours in. Each time you step back, it stabilizes, and just when you nearly forget the dream amid the grind of work and the whispers in your head, an old, one-eyed tomb worker hobbles past, leaning on his staff, and says, "How many times have you boarded the boat?" You freeze. You never told anyone about that dream. The old man doesn't stop, only adding, "When the living and the dead share a dream, it's no longer a dream, it's a summons." You sit by a pile of broken bricks, heart pounding like a funeral drum. So, you're not the only one dreaming it. The dead, or the dying, or those trapped between worlds are reliving that image with you. And that boat might not just be a symbol, it could be an upcoming ritual, a selection, a river crossing for someone who's seen more than they should. The nights after, the dream grows clearer. You start hearing the masked figure's words. They don't speak directly, they ask. Strange questions echo. Have you accepted yet? Who among us will you offer yourself to? Do you know what will be taken if you say yes? You don't know how to answer. You're not sure you can refuse, because each morning feels the same, as if part of your soul didn't return with your body. And when you see your shadow on the rock wall, sometimes it moves out of sync. It breathes when you don't. It tilts its head when you stand straight. And worse, one morning, looking into a water jug, you see yourself wearing a mask. Not one of the 5 from your dreams, but a 6th, a blank mask. No eyes, no nose, no mouth, an absolute void. And you understand, if you dream again, if you board the boat one more time, you won't have to choose. You'll become one of them. Or worse, the faceless one. The one who moves through others' dreams. The one who no longer sleeps, because he is the dream. And you, once a living person, are slipping away from every definition. Only one question remains. When will you stop waking up? And the answer comes sooner than you think. One morning, before the sun touches the tomb chamber where you work, you take a sip of water as usual, close your eyes for a brief rest. But you don't wake. Not after an hour, not after noon, not after 2 nights. No one finds you in your tent. No one reports you missing, because you're already someone they pretend not to see. You lie curled up in a freshly excavated stone chamber, amid the smell of ash, rotting linen, dried scarabs, and an unfinished wall carving of Anubis. No one knows why you fell into that state, but you know because, before slipping away, you saw the boat again. This time, you stepped aboard, unresisting, and as you stood in the boat's center, all the masked figures bowed, even the blank mask vanished, replaced by your own face, older, fainter, and holier. You walked to the boat's heart, and then the light melted into water, swallowing you one last time. When you open your eyes, stomach gnawing with hunger, mouth parched, eyes stinging from darkness and lack of air, you're lying in a circle of people. They don't scream, they don't fear, they kneel, hands clasped, eyes teary. A woman whispers, "He has returned." A boy offers you a wilted lotus bundle. A middle-aged man hands you a bowl of ritual water. You stammer, "Where?"
Oh my.
The woman cries louder. He speaks. He knows words. He remembers. You don't understand, until you hear an old man whisper to another. For 3 nights, light from the tomb's crack formed an eye. 3 owls died at the entrance. No wounds. The sun didn't shine where he lay. Isn't that a sign of divine rebirth? And then, you understand. They think you're a god reborn, maybe a local deity, maybe an ancient sorcerer returned in flesh, maybe the embodiment of a collective dream you don't fully recall. But in 3 days of not moving, barely breathing, not decaying, you've transcended human limits. And these people, who've buried loved ones, wept before cold graves, prayed in vain, now see a dead man risen before them, and they want to believe. You struggle to sit up, body trembling. You look at your hands, pale skin, purple nails, scratches caked with resin dust. You touch your face, dried blood, and sweat mixed like clay, but your eyes, bright, too bright. Because in those 3 days, you didn't just sleep, you dreamed so deeply you touched something. You heard the language of scarabs. You understood why mummies are bound not to preserve form, but to keep souls from wandering. And you know that, if you spoke these things in plain words, they'd worship you as a god, but a part of you is still lucid. You speak slowly, voice low. I've gone far and seen what you shouldn't. They fall silent. The woman kneels lower. The man with the water bowl splashes it on his own face. A youth throws ash on his head. And so, you once expelled from the temple, nearly sacrificed, host to a nameless soul, now sit on a stone slab, draped with rough cloth, offered food, listened to like a prophet. You don't mean to deceive, but you don't deny. How could you explain that you knew the sun wouldn't shine in the tomb, because you slept in a crevice too deep, at an angle too narrow? How could you make them understand a near-death state, where your consciousness sank deeper than any trance? You're someone who's seen what no one should, and now when people want to listen, you speak. You recount the boat, the masks, the recurring dream. You describe the blank mask with details only a dreamer would know, and they shudder, glancing at each other. One whispers, "I saw it too." Another nods, and it never blinks. Under the day's last light, beside a field of tombstones, you, a homeless, nameless, templeless soul, now sit among a circle of people. They call you the one returned, and in your mind, that other soul is silent, as if listening, waiting. You know this peace won't last. You know one day, the temple will hear. They'll come, they'll question, perform rituals, press symbols to your forehead, to verify, who is this really? But for now, you're fed, you touch others' hands without them flinching. You share the fractured pieces in your mind, and are believed. And perhaps, just perhaps, that matters more than truth. Because when you're believed to be a god, even for a moment, that moment absolves you of all the times you saw what shouldn't be seen. And for you, that's the only miracle left. But no miracle lasts forever. 3 days after the tomb workers build you a small tent, offer food, wash your feet with warm water, and call you the one returned, a stranger appears. No name, no knock, no walking, just the sound of bronze bells, a ringing that cuts through the sweltering noon, making everyone shiver as if a snake slithered down their spines. He wears a grey cloak, hood up, carrying a wooden box carved with a feather, balanced on scales. No one asks who he is, but everyone knows he's from the temple, not to punish, not to seize, but to test Mat. In ancient Egypt, Mat is the holiest concept, the absolute balance of the universe, order, morality, the breath of the gods. Anyone claiming to be chosen, God-possessed, or returned from death, must face a Mat test. If you've truly seen, known, brought messages from the spirit layers, you'll maintain balance. If not, you'll break. He says little. He only invites you into a circle, drawn in gold powder, on the sand. In its center, a small stone table holds a single white feather. No one touches it, he says. Only divine breath can. You understand this isn't a trick. It's a spiritual ritual with a hallucinogenic dose that could kill. They burn incense. Not the kind you know. Its acrid smell, like hemp smoke steeped in human fat, hits you. One inhale, and your head reels. Your body light as a wick. You sit without recalling kneeling. You see the feather, but can't tell if it's near or far. Then the bells ring again. This time, in your head, you no longer hear wind or people, only the breath of balance itself. You see yourself on a thread-thin bridge, over a bottomless abyss, holding your heart, not symbolic, but a pulsing, blood-wet organ. A voice asks, "Have you ever lied?" You want to say yes, who hasn't? But your mouth won't open. The voice asks, have you hidden anything? You want to nod, but your head is stone. And then, the feather starts to move. Not with the wind, with your true feelings. Each time you lie to yourself, it tilts. Each time you pretend calm, it wobbles. Each time you recall standing in a ritual and not intervening, it sags as if soaked. And when you think of the blank mask, it falls. You scream in your mind, I'm not a god, I'm just a survivor. And the feather floats back. Light, light, as forgiveness. You open your eyes, still in the circle, drenched in sweat, body trembling. The grey-cloaked man nods, says nothing, and leaves. The only sign you passed. The feather remains on the table, unbroken, unchanged. But you know you didn't pass by faith. You passed by full-body hallucination. You don't know what they burned, but it didn't just make you dream. It stitched every fragment in your mind together, making you unable to lie. Not to gods, not to yourself. And the price of that truth, you'll never know what's real again. When they ask, what did you see in the Mart test? You only smile, saying, I saw me. Because how can you explain seeing your heart fall into an abyss? How can you describe a judging feather, not God, not human? And from then, the people believe you more. They say, he's been touched by Mart. He's the embodiment of balance. But you know, you're walking a tightrope between sanity and madness. Each night after, you lie in your tent, heart racing, mouth whispering, am I still me? And you have no answer. Only hallucinations so real, you claw your hands to ensure your skin remains. Once, you smell that smoke in the breeze, though no one's burning anything. And you weep, not from sadness, but because you know that ritual may still be continuing in you, never truly ended. And you, from an exiled witness, have become the bearer of balance between two worlds, living and dead, awake and dreaming, real and unreal. But that balance is as fragile as that white feather, and one wrong breath, you'll fall forever. But that doesn't happen, not immediately. Instead, when you open your eyes one morning or evening, as you can no longer tell, you're not in your small tent by the tomb's edge. You're on a long wooden plank, bound tightly with resin-soaked linen cords. Below you is water. Around you, blinding golden light melts every outline, and above your head, the sun. Not gentle morning light, but a blazing disk hovering close, so close you feel your skin bubbling from hallucinatory heat. A figure, or something like one, rose, silent, never turning, moving like a clock, rhythmic, relentless. You sit up, or rather your upper body jerks upright, like a pulled string. No one binds you, but you can't lift your feet from the boat's edge. You call out, who brought me here? No answer. Just the sound of oars hitting water. Then, as if your question needs no response, a sound from the sky descends, not in human words but in memory. You've balanced. You're permitted to cross. You're stunned. Cross what? What balance? But deep down, you know. This is the sunboat, etched in Pharaoh's tomb walls, sung in ancient nursemaids' lullabies, where souls are ferried through darkness to eternity, or to dissolve completely. But you're not dead, you're breathing. You remember. So, is this real, or a dream, a higher hallucination? The next stage of the Mart ritual, or the loss of control you've feared since inhaling mummy dust and fish fat? The boat drifts, no shore, no current. The sun above doesn't move. Everything is still, except the oars. You look into the water and see your face. Not one, but 10, 15, 20 faces. All you, but each with a different expression. Fear, madness, calm, childish, ancient, indifferent, enraged. They stare from below, then smile. In unison, you lean back, trying to escape, but nothing supports you, except light. Then the voice sounds again. You haven't chosen a form. You haven't completed the path. You're being pulled between two poles. You weep, not knowing what you are, not knowing where you are. You scream, I want off. But the oars don't stop, the rower doesn't turn, and the sun above laughs, not imagination. You see the bright disk ripple like a face, a curve like a smirking mouth. And for the first time you understand why Egyptians fear the sun at night. It doesn't vanish. It watches from the other side. You lie back, accepting. No more screaming. No more questions. And in the moment, you let go of all doubt. The scene shifts. You're in a room. Oil lamps flicker. Incense smoke smells of cannabis and resin. You're on the floor, mouth agape, hands clutching a cloth bundle. A familiar voice says, "He's awake." The soul's journey through the sun layer is done. You turn. It's the grey-cloaked man. He looks at you, not threatening, but bowing. "You were truly chosen," he says, then leaves silently. You want to call him back, to ask, was it a dream or real? But you don't need to, because you know there's no boundary anymore. You've crossed, no longer the old human, no longer the exile from the temple, or the soul host puppeteered by another. You are a boatman, one of the rare few who sat on the sunboat and still breathe upon return. But at what cost? That every time you see sunlight, you can't tell if it's warming you or watching you. Every time you look in a mirror, you wonder which face am I today from those under the water. And every night you dream, you see yourself rowing, no one else, no sun, just you. And you, at opposite ends of the boat, taking turns asking, do you still remember who's real? And both stay silent. An admission that from now on, no one has the right to be certain. Not priests, not creasts, not gourds, not you, not me, only the boat and the light. But the light isn't always gentle. On the third day after returning from that boat, your body shows strange signs. Your head burns like a stone left in the desert for half a day, pulse erratic, heart pounding, as if trying to escape your chest. When you close your eyes, instead of darkness, you see thousands of blazing eyes staring, unblinking, unrelenting. Worse, you hear fire crackling in your brain. At first, you think it's an aftershock of the Ma'at ritual, a delayed reaction from incense burned with dried cactus, or a slow response from riding the sunboat. But then you vomit, a streak of green bile mixed with thick yellow foam, reeking of metal and melted fat, and at that moment, an old woman by your tent gasps as you stumble out, eyes bloodshot. The god rages in his flesh. Her words spread instantly. Within an hour, you're no longer human. You're a manifestation of divine wrath. They bring you cold water from the deepest well. They rub your head with herbal wine. They pray at your tent with trembling words. They don't understand. You're just feverish. But fever from what? You search your memory, and then, like a cold lightning bolt through the hot haze, you recall 3 days ago, someone gave you a ritual offering, saying it was raw beeswax from Ray's temple in Heliopolis, to hold under your tongue during meditation to connect with the sun god easier. You hadn't planned to use it. But that night, when the tapping in your head returned, when the boat dream looped endlessly, you slipped it into your mouth just for one quiet night. A mistake. That wax was likely laced with something, toxic sap, unrefined hallucinogen, or ash from corpse-eating bees. Whatever it was, it's shattered your nervous system. And now, in the villagers' eyes, you're a breathing pillar of fire. Each exhale makes them flinch. Each twitch makes them think you're being used as a divine vessel. A child hands you a small sun disk statue, whispering, "Please calm your anger, don't burn us." You want to cry, but your tears are dry. You don't know if you're dreaming or dying. You hear thunder at noon. You see the ground crack, like a fired clay pot. You see a towering figure, hawk-headed, wreathed in fire, approaching through blinding light. And when you scream, "Ra, stop," you realize you're clutching a dead tree, nails scraping off rough bark, mouthful of dirt and foam. You're not meeting a god. You're in a toxic crisis. But what makes you unable to tell real from unreal is that even those around you don't try to distinguish. They want to believe you're a divine embodiment. They want your madness to be a sacred visitation. They need something to believe in. In a world of plagues, death, bloody rituals, and wandering souls, nothing is more comforting than thinking a trembling, thrashing, screaming man is God-possessed, not poisoned. And you, in your delirium, want both to escape and can't. Because if you stand, brush yourself off, and shout, "I'm just feverish. It's bad wax," you'll be nothing. No longer chosen, no longer Ma'at balanced, nothing at all. Just a man who rode the sunboat and fell from a tainted piece of wax. And if that's acknowledged, you'll be erased. No one allows a symbol to fall. You realize, mid-fever, you must play along, not to deceive them, to survive. That night, you wash your face with cold water, drape yourself in a blazing red cloth, step into the courtyard, and say, Ra has calmed. But he demands an offering of fire. The village falls silent, then kneels. A man shouts, light the ovens, burn incense, prepare the sacred fire. And you, head still spinning like a ritual wheel, both sigh in relief and shudder. Because you know, if the fever returns, if you scream uncontrollably another day, they'll believe again, and they'll do whatever you say, even if it's just words spilling from a mouth scorched by toxic wax. And that's the scariest thing, not gods, but unconditional belief in someone who can't tell what's real, what's fever. And just as you emerge from the delirium, your body still reeking of sour sweat, mixed with raw beeswax and smoldering incense ash, another event begins. A group from a nearby village arrives, not to seek healing, not to offer gifts, but to invite you to a soul-calling ritual. They say their region is cursed by a hex. Newborns cry for 3 nights straight from the moment their eyes open. Neighbors' cattle die without cause, and local temple priests refuse to help, claiming this is not a matter for the living. So they turn to you, the one tested by Ra, the one who survived the sunboat, the one who passed Mart's trial. You lack the strength to resist. Your body hasn't recovered. Your head still buzzes, as if hundreds of whispering voices are weaving through it. But you nod, partly out of fear of suspicion, partly because you want to know if you're still in control. The soul calling takes place under a full moon, in a packed dirt courtyard lined with dried rosemary branches. They set up a circle of sacred wood, cut from trees by an ancient well, believed to pierce the veil of the underworld's breath. An old sorcerer from the Thebes market shows you how to draw charms with sheep's blood on baked bricks, teaching you chants with syllables so harsh they burn your throat after minutes. You're given a cup of reddish-brown liquid, a mix of fermented beer dregs, lotus oil, ground lapis lazuli, and, crucially, a pinch of ash from a sacred dead cat. You swallow it like a vow, open the gate, then they burn smoke. Not ordinary incense, but a blend of aromatic resin, mustard root, a few drops of opium sap, and dried snake scalp. The acrid, sweet smell spreads fast, enveloping you like cursed fog. You sit in the circle, eyes open, but seeing nothing. No one speaks, only the crackle of coals, your heartbeat, and the sense something is about to tear from reality. And just when you think this time you'll see nothing, that your body's used to the drugs, your soul too calloused, it appears. A cat. No, not a real cat. A cat's form rising from the smoke, vivid as a stone carving, ash-grey fur, bright yellow eyes, tail draped like a silk ribbon. It stares at you, then speaks. It's been long since someone was open enough. Its voice is thin as a snapped hair, yet clear inside your ears, as if spoken from your marrow. Those around you don't react. They keep bowing, muttering chants. You look around, no one else sees. Only you. The cat steps closer, feet not touching the ground, each step leaving swirling hieroglyphs of smoke. You've tasted sacred ash. You've breathed dead wood smoke. You've ridden the boat and didn't fall. Now, you may ask. You swallow hard. Every cell in you is both terrified and thrilled. Who are you? You ask. The cat tilts its head. Names don't matter. Roles keep souls alive. I'm the memory of dreams burned alive. You shudder. Why do I see you? Because you're no longer one. The answer chills your spine. You press. Can I close the gate? The cat pauses, licks its front paw, then looks at you like a child asking for directions home in a desert. No, the gate opens from within. You are its hinge. You don't fully understand, but you understand enough. You can't go back to being human as before. From now on, any ritual with smoke, chants, blood or ash will summon things only you see, and they will speak to you. The cat retreats, fading into the smoke, leaving one last line. Don't ask more. You still have too much to lose. Then it's gone. You open your eyes. The circle's fire is out. The villagers stand, eyes eager. What did you see? Who came? You hesitate. If you tell the truth, they'll think you're mad. If you lie, you'll betray what you just experienced. You give a faint smile, a cat-like spirit. It said the curse is starting to lift. They bow in unison, one claps, and you realize from now on, everything you see, hallucination, reality, talking cat, or your own cracking mind, will be revered, and that terrifies you more than any curse. Because nothing is more dangerous than a word spoken in delirium, etched as truth. And as you begin to doubt yourself, when the incense smoke has dissipated, when the talking cat is just an echo of a bizarre trance in your head, a hand emerges from the crowd, holding a small turquoise object, a lotus bud. But not just any lotus. The man holds it with 2 fingertips, as if lifting a god's arm, whispering, "You've spoken of spirits, gates, fire, and balance, but you've never chewed the blue lotus." The crowd falls silent. Under the moonlight, the bud glows. You know what it is. Back at the temple, you heard sorcerers mention it. Blue lotus, the flower from dead riverbeds, where light doesn't reach, called the dream hand of the gods. Not burned, not steeped, not mixed. It must be chewed raw. And when you do, you don't just open your mind. You open the collective memory of everyone who's ever touched it. A living memory, unbound by time. The man still holds out the bud, his gaze not pleading, but challenging. The crowd waits. You take it. The bud is soft yet firm, smelling of stagnant water and cold mud. You hesitate, but you've drunk fish fat, inhaled mummy dust, swallowed cat ash. You know turning back isn't an option. You place it in your mouth. Chew. The first taste is familiar. Herbs, earth, unbloomed sprouts. But then a cold stream surges down your spine, like a river flowing backward. Your eyes widen, not from shock, but because you hear the light, not see. Hear, each ray hitting your eyes chimes, like glass beads tossed on stone. And then the worst happens. Memories blend. You're no longer you. You're a woman tied to a temple pillar, accused of being a cat god's avatar, but refusing to confess. You're a child forced to chew blue lotus in a coming-of-age ritual, screaming for 40 days. You're a priest who secretly sold lotus to heretics, hands broken and buried alive by an old lotus tree. Each life floods in like a red tide. You can't breathe, but your body stays still. To outsiders, you're in trance. They see you close your eyes, lips smiling. An old woman whispers, "He's speaking with the gods," but you're thrashing, buried in thousands of screams, rage, desires, repentance, betrayal, all from those who chewed the lotus. Because this flower doesn't just unlock depths, it's a hard drive of vivid historical memory, and you, by chewing, agreed to be its conduit. Your body grows cold, your heart slows. A voice in your head asks, "Want to stop?" You try to nod, your neck won't move. You want to say enough, but your lips only smile, because you're no longer in control. The voice continues, "This is just the first layer. The next holds souls never freed." They don't speak in words. They transmit feeling. You'll become them every night. You tremble, not outwardly, inwardly. And just when you think you'll dissolve into memory dust, another smell emerges. Reality smell. Incense smoke. Human sweat. Prayers. For the first time you crave it. You pull yourself from the depths, like someone swimming up from the Nile's bottom in a cold night. And then, you open your eyes. The crowd claps like waves. One kneels to kiss your feet. Another offers water. You went and returned. You saw. You nod faintly. You dare not speak. Because you know if you open your mouth, the voice might not be yours. In your head, memories still mix. Someone cries from being burned. Someone moans from starvation. Someone laughs after killing their brother for a sorcerer's title. And you, in your once familiar body, aren't sure if you wake tomorrow. Which of them will you be? You only know one thing. Never chew blue lotus. If you're not ready to become the archive of every memory this world forgot. But it's too late. You're a living archive. And each time you dream, someone opens a drawer inside you, pulls out a memory, and lives again, through you. And that opens the door to something no one prepared for: the first flight, straight through the underworld. Not a dream, not a hallucination, not a guided ritual or matter test, but a free fall, unannounced, unguided, without talismans. It begins with a strange breeze through your tent's gap at midnight. The breeze smells of bone dust mixed with cold water from the underworld. It doesn't cool, it numbs. Then your body lightens, as if all your blood's been drained. Your eyes stay open, but the world around you flows away like water from a broken jug. And then, you're not in the tent. You're drifting, not on a river, not in the air, but in an invisible current full of time's dust. Images hit you like axe blades. A fresh mummy dragged from its tomb, an old woman clutching her suffocated grandchild, buried by mistake, a line of headless spirits walking against your path, all silent, yet they make sound. The sound of unkept promises, of unheard grievances, of prayers never reaching divine ears. And in that current, you have no body. You're a point of awareness. No pain, no breath, no memory. You just see. Then you're thrown into a cave. No light, yet you see everything, by an unnamed sense. The walls hold hundreds of eyes, opening, closing, like beating hearts. A voice sounds, not from outside but within you. You've crossed. No going back. Fly on. And you fly. No wings, no force, just will. But the direction isn't yours to choose. It's decided by what you carry. You feel Blue Lotus memories ripped from you like cloth shaken in the wind. Each piece flies off, glows, then bursts into image chains. A mother, praying by her child's body. A sorcerer drinking his own blood to prove loyalty. A fraud selling fake charms, turned to living stone. And each time you fly through a piece, you merge into it, live it, die it, then snap out. It all happens in a moment, but feels like hours, days, centuries. Finally, you reach a place with no images, just a black lake, no ripples, no reflection. You approach its edge, or rather, your idea of you drifts there, and from it, something rises, formless, a shimmering black mass, like fish skin under moonlight. It says, "This is the final layer. Touch me and you'll belong to no time." You retreat, not from fear, but because you sense the cost of absolute knowledge, the cost of knowing every death, every fault, every untold truth. But the black mass doesn't need your touch. It touches you. In that moment, you lose the concept of you, your everyone, every era, every unliberated soul. You hear cries from thousands of graves. You smell the hair of a woman burned alive. You taste sand in the mouth of a child buried breathing. And then you're spat out. Not gently, like being vomited from the underworld's throat. You bolt upright, hitting your head on the tent's beam, vomiting a yellow puddle, eyes wild like a madman's. You scream, not from fear, but because part of the underworld lingers in you, refusing to leave. Those around retreat, terrified. One says, "He's been taken through the afterlife." Another whispers, "Is he still him?" You don't answer. Words are meaningless then. You only know you've flown, not by smoke, not by dreams, not by rituals, but by the memories of unheard souls. And now, each time you sleep, you feel like you're falling forever. Each time someone touches you, you flinch, fearing their hand will pull you back to the black lake. And you understand, this was just the first time. More will come, spontaneous, unannounced, because once you've flown through the underworld, it will find its way back through you. And because of that, not long after your first flight through the underworld, you're summoned before ancient Egypt's holiest tribunal, where Osiris, king of the underworld, waits to judge your soul, though you're still frozen between trance and waking, human and wraith. You don't know who brought you here. Hear no footsteps or commands. Only feel a gentle but irresistible force, guiding you through long shadowed corridors and walls carved with cryptic divine symbols. As you enter the great hall, the dim glow of hundreds of oil lamps reflects off Osiris's colossal statue, a mummified body with a human head holding a scepter and flail, stopping your heart. The air is so heavy, each breath feels like silent thunder in the underworld. You can't move, speak, or do anything but stand, eyes wide, unblinking, body rigid as stone. Priests in pristine white robes, wearing falcon headdresses and winged masks, line up before you. They recite your name, your sins recorded in the soul's ledger, times you lied, deceived yourself, betrayed sacred trusts, but you can't respond, you can't protest. Your mind is frozen amid fractured memories and inexplicable images. Finally, a high priest steps forward, holding a large gold and jewel-encrusted scale, his face grave, as if weighing your soul with his own heart. He places a white feather on one side and demands you place your heart on the other. But you can't. You don't know what your heart is in this frozen state. You feel no pain, no joy, no regret, no love. You're just there, cold, soulless as an empty husk. The scale tips toward the feather. A sigh echoes from Osiris's statue. The priests whisper, eyes somber. Then Osiris speaks, not in words, but in a blue-green light from the statue's mouth, enveloping you. The light swirls around, melting the ice in your soul, awakening buried memories. You see again those you met on your flight, the old woman's hand, the crying child, the talking cat, the blue lotus, the rituals, the whispers. Images weave like a vast tapestry of life and death. As the light fades, a gentle voice says, "You're not perfect, but you faced the truth. That's the first step to living again. You're not fully awake, but you feel a shift. The floating sensation vanishes, your eyes sharpen, and your heart now beats with life's rhythm, no longer frozen in memory's ice." The priests bow, the crowd silent. You're allowed to leave the hall, stepping into sunlight without fear, no longer chased by past wraiths. But you know this judgment isn't the end. It's a beginning, a warning that from now on, every step is watched by gods. Every act could strengthen or undo you. And you, fresh from the freeze, must never forget, life is a chain of rituals, and rituals are life. You must learn to walk between two worlds, light and dark, truth and illusion. And so, leaving Osiris's temple, no longer a soul-tormented exile, you know you've been given a new mission to maintain balance between realms, the living and dead, mat and chaos. But to do so, you must face harsher trials, deeper rituals, and secrets only those who dare face the dark can hold. And that path, as you know, has only just begun. After leaving Osiris's temple with this heavy mission, you're led to another place, not a temple, not a tomb, but a damp house in Thebes' ancient quarter. Here live the legal sorcerers, seen as spiritual doctors, healers through magic, and judges of living souls. You're assigned as an assistant to one, an old man with a long silver beard, deep eyes and hands scarred from unsuccessful patient treatments. The work is grueling, preparing potions, arranging mystical herbs, performing complex rituals to banish evil spirits. But what lingers is the special medicine the sorcerer always carries, saliva from the sacred crocodile god Sobek. No one dares ask why or doubt it. They only know it's collected from crocodiles raised in Sobek's temple, embodiments of strength, power, and protection. It's believed to hold magic, healing diseases, repelling haunting spirits, even freeing souls bound by Maat. You've seen the sorcerer carefully mix a bit of saliva with aromatic oils, falcon blood, and lapis lazuli powder, then apply it to a mute man's forehead. After a few rituals, the man made sounds, not clear speech, but everyone called it a miracle. The work teaches you that medicine and magic here aren't separate, but strangely entwined. You learn to read magical symbols carved on patients' skin, to close your eyes and sense the energy within each person, and most crucially, to use Sobek's saliva as a key to unlock energy channels. But not every ritual succeeds. You've seen a woman, thought possessed, scream endlessly after the ointment and chants, her body convulsing so violently she had to be restrained. She fainted, and when she woke, no one knew where she went. Such stories awaken you to magic's dangers. Sometimes it betrays, turning into a monster within the treated body. One day, you're tasked to follow the sorcerer to the Nile's banks, where people gather to pray for rain. There, he takes black mud mixed with crocodile saliva, smears it on a leper's forehead, chanting and drawing symbols in the air. You see the man's eyes change, his body stiffen, then relax, finally sobbing like a child. The sight makes you believe in miracles, but fear the power you're near. In the days after, you realize you're not just a hired hand. You're the sorcerer's secret keeper, a witness to silent miracles and tragedies behind each ritual. You grow obsessed with a question: is this power truly from gods, or just dangerous herbs and blind faith? You recall your flights through the underworld, your trials, the talking cat, and now using crocodile saliva to heal and banish darkness. They seem like scattered pieces of one game between life and death, reason and superstition, human and divine. But you know you can't leave this game. No matter how much you want to, you're inseparable from it. And in that moment, looking at the starry sky, you feel a quiet power seep through you, not just magic, but your own will to live, understand, and find truth behind the fog of rituals and hallucinations. You decide, no matter the challenges or darkness ahead, you'll keep walking, for only by walking can you find yourself in ancient Egypt's maze of gods and wraiths. And then one day, something unexpected happens. You're allowed to touch the god's statue. Not a small altar figure, not a time-worn relief, but the colossal statue of Horus himself, falcon-headed, symbol of strength, protection, and supreme power, in the temple's main hall. The air is thick with resin scent, light dim from oil lamps at the statue's base. Your heart races, breath quickens, though your steps remain steady. A high priest, the only one besides the pharaoh permitted to touch it, approaches, raises his hand, and says, "You've passed the trial's layers. Now, you may join the ritual." His words aren't just permission, but a summons. You stand frozen, gazing at the statue of gold, jewels, and vibrant paint, your eyes locked on the falcon's eye, drawn by an invisible pull. The priest guides your hand to the cold statue. For the first time, you feel a connection, not just tactile, but a deep sensation spreading through you, like electricity through every nerve. You can't explain it, but know you're not just touching stone and gold, you're touching life, the god's soul. Then the priest chants. The resonant, fluid, powerful words drown out all other sounds in the temple. You feel each word, each syllable, not just in your ears, but sinking into your flesh. As the chant peaks, the priest draws symbols with fragrant oil on your forehead, hands, and chest. These symbols, unlike any on temple walls or ancient texts, pulse with life, glowing in the dark. Your body feels lighter, as if merging with something greater. You're no longer an individual, you're part of the ritual, a link in a chain of ancient events spanning millennia. At times you feel you're dissolving into the statue, and it grows more alive in your eyes. You hear whispers of surrounding gods, feel the heartbeat of earth and sky, and sense invisible energy currents. Part of you fears this transformation. You no longer know what's you, what's divine, what's ritual, or what's hallucination. But another part surges with power and freedom. Freedom to become the sacred thing millions dream of, but never touch. After the ritual, you're not the same. Every thought, action, even emotion is shaped by a new force, an undeniable mission. You become the firekeeper, the conduit of divine souls to the mortal world. In this role, you understand ancient rituals deeper, the meaning behind each symbol, chant, and mark on your body. You learn to control the energy flow within, to wield spiritual states to convey God's messages without dissolving into them. You become a bridge between worlds, where mortals hear divine words, and gods feel the pulse of earth, rivers, mountains. But this path is challenging and lonely. You can't fully share your experiences, others wouldn't understand or dare believe. At times you feel like a hollow golden statue, displayed for others to admire, pondering immortality. At times you doubt you've lost all will, just a ritual shell. But you know there's no turning back. You've become part of something greater, inseparable from ancient Egypt's fate, its gods, and the souls wandering its endless desert fields. And when you look at Horus's statue daily, you no longer see yourself. You see a piece of eternity, an undying soul fragment, a part of the ritual, forever entwined between the worlds of mortals and gods. But the path you've embarked on is never easy or reversible. One full moon night, when silver light bathes the ancient temple grounds, you're summoned to a special ritual, a collective circumcision ceremony, an essential initiation to gain full power and divine recognition in ancient Egyptian society. You no longer have the option to say, no, it doesn't exist in the Egyptian lexicon now, especially for someone entangled in the whirl of rituals and divinity. The temple courtyard is swept clean, covered with a layer of fine, cool sand under bare feet. Around you, dozens of young men stand in a silent circle, eyes teary but resolute, waiting. The scent of incense blends with the cold air, creating an atmosphere both sacred and stifling. The high priest appears, wearing a white linen headdress, holding a gleaming bronze knife that glints under the moonlight. He says nothing. He only raises the knife, then points it toward each youth in the circle. When your turn comes, your heart pounds as if it might leap from your chest. You can't retreat. You know resisting would mean not just expulsion from the temple, but possibly a death sentence veiled as ritual. The boy beside you grips your hand tightly, lips pursed, eyes confused but striving for calm. When the sharp bronze touches your flesh, you feel a piercing cold and a wave of pain spreading from your body to the crown of your head. The sound of the knife's cut silences everyone. No screams, no cries, only hurried breaths, soft groans like wind whistling through stone crevices. You look up at the sky, the full moon a solemn witness to this ancient rite. Beside you, another priest begins chanting in ancient Egyptian, incomprehensible incantations with an invisible power that weighs the air heavier. After the knife is withdrawn, someone quickly applies honey-soaked linen to the wound to stop bleeding and prevent infection, while the high priest hands you a flask of fragrant water with a strange scent, instructing you to drink it to purify your soul. You feel exhausted, in pain, but also a strange pride, though you don't fully grasp the ritual's meaning. Deep down, you know you've crossed a vital threshold, an essential step in connecting with the divine and the community. But the ritual isn't just about cutting flesh. It's a transfer of power, a covenant between man and God, body and soul, past and future. In the days following, you feel a clear shift in your body and mind. Your dreams are no longer chaotic but vivid, structured. You hear whispers in your head, not from lost souls, but from protective gods watching and guiding you. The physical pain fades, replaced by a latent strength, a sense of expansion in both body and soul. Those around you start looking at you differently. They see a person who's endured a trial, brave enough to walk the path of sanctity and power. But to you, it's a burden. You understand there's no choice left, no way back. You're bound to an endless cycle of rituals, secrets, powers and hallucinations. And you know more rituals, more trials and truths you never dared imagine lie ahead. But you've stepped in. There's no choice but to move forward, seeking truth amid ancient Egypt's shadows, under the ever-watchful eyes of gods and the whispers of unliberated souls. Then one day, when you thought you'd endured every ritual and trial, a high priest appears beside you during a secret ceremony under the dim crescent moon. Unlike other priests, he wears no pristine white robes but a jet-black linen garment, as if draped in thick darkness. He looks at you with deep, emotionless eyes, then pulls out a small clay flask, sealed with crimson beeswax. "You've drunk enough beer, tasted blue lotus and incense smoke," he says in a gravelly voice, like the Nile flowing over stones. "Now, it's time to drink the wine mixed with divine blood." You stare at the flask, thinking wine. In ancient Egypt, amidst temples and deserts, who has wine? Perhaps a rare vintage for pharaohs and high priests, fermented from ripe grapes under the desert sun. You imagine a sweet tart taste, a gentle aroma, a smooth sip gliding down your throat. But you're wrong. The wine mixed with divine blood is neither sweet nor fragrant. As the priest breaks the seal, a foul stench escapes, like a freshly opened mummy, mingled with dried blood and tarry resin. You hear the faint clink of tiny fragments in the flask as he pours into a small glass cup. The wine is so dark red that light can't pass through. He hands you the cup, his eyes never leaving you. "Drink," he says. You can't refuse. You take a sip, a bitter taste spreading like toxic salt, metallic and sharp, with a salty tang like the tears of the dead. The intoxication doesn't hit loudly but creeps in, attacking every cell. Your head burns, limbs tremble, not from weakness, but from a rising power. In your mind, voices echo, not human, but from the most ancient gods. Whispers not heard with ears, but felt in the soul. You don't just see but feel life, death, and the universe's ceaseless transformation through each bitter drop. Another priest, wearing a falcon mask, steps forward, holding a golden blade. He begins drawing ancient symbols on you, with the blood of a sacrificed falcon. The symbols glow faintly under candlelight, like threads tying you to the gods above. Your body transforms. Your skin feels thin as paper, sensitive to every breath, like an electric current. And then, amid the intoxication and ritual, you're no longer in the temple. You float in another space, between a crimson sky and a sea of green fire. A giant raven flies toward you, its beak clacking like war drums, eyes glowing as they pierce you. You've drunk divine blood, you've merged with demon's blood. You're part of life and death. You can't resist. The wine has erased the boundary between you and the divine, between man and demon. When you wake, You're in the arms of white-robed women, singing ancient hymns, the air thick with herbal medicine and lotus perfume. But deep within, something has changed forever. You're no longer the person you were. You carry a new power, a new responsibility, and a new curse. The curse of one who's drunk divine blood, unable to turn back, unable to abandon, only able to walk forward through darkness and light, life and death. From then on, each time you see the moon, you don't just see the moon. You see drops of blood from sacrificed souls, curses of ancient gods, and the echo of an intoxication that never ends. Not long after, you're brought to a 9-hour chanting ritual, a ceremony said to alter your soul's fate, or even free you from the cycle of life and death. It takes place in a vast room lit only by faint oil lamps, the heavy scent of incense clinging to every breath. You're led to sit in a circle of priests and villagers, all in white robes, faces hidden behind intricately carved wooden masks, muttering ancient incantations. The chants start softly, like wind through reed fields, then grow urgent, like war drums echoing across the desert. You feel each syllable like electricity coursing through you, the rhythm pulling you into a near trance. 5 hours in, your body feels light as a cloud, limbs limp, mind drifting on a blackened Nile under moonlight. A middle-aged woman hands you a small bundle of wild grass, thumb-sized, smelling sweet yet bitterly sharp. Bite it, she says, to see what mortal eyes cannot. You have no choice but to obey. As you bite, the grass's taste spreads, cool and stinging, as if waking every cell in your head and hurling you into a storm of memories. The world around you shifts. Walls melt like beeswax. Light flickers into long streaks like shooting stars. The chants blend with wind, waves, and distant laughter. Images flash in your mind. Gods standing in a blazing desert, mummies rising to walk, sacred crocodiles silently watching your steps along the Nile. When the ritual ends, you and the others collapse, sobbing, whether from pain or release. You're unsure. You cry too, tears mixing with sweat and incense dust on your cheeks, feeling a profound connection with those around you and yourself. That night, lying on a straw mat, you sense a permanent change in your soul, a harmony between life and death, reality and illusion, you and the unreachable. You know that, despite more trials and rituals ahead, this chanting marked a vital step. You're no longer an outsider in this game. You've become part of the divine current, a firekeeper between worlds, walking a path charted by gods and departed souls. From that night, each time you see wild grass or hear chants, you recall that trance and weeping, feeling the whispers of souls waiting for you to continue the journey, an endless journey in ancient Egypt's mysterious world. Then one night, lying on a damp straw mat, incense smoke lingering in the air, you sink into the deepest dream yet, not of this life, but a vivid memory of a past life you never considered. In the dream, you're not a weary ritual wanderer, but a strong young man, sun-darkened, muscular, hands calloused from heavy hammer strikes on stone. You stand in a vast construction site, massive stones being stacked into what later generations call a pyramid. Workers' shouts echo through the desert, the sky thick with dust and blinding sunlight. You feel each grain of sand underfoot, each bead of sweat on your brow, the clatter of ropes pulling stones. You're one of the builders of the world's greatest monument, not an engineer or overseer, but a soldier, a laborer, forced to give your strength to the pharaoh and gods. The dream isn't just memory, but a vivid reliving of every pain, sacrifice and despair, as you drag stones heavy as elephants daily, watching fellow laborers starve, be beaten, or vanish without trace. You feel deep loneliness at night, lying among cold stones, dreaming of another life, a freedom you never had. Suddenly, the sky changes. Fire erupts in a nearby papyrus field, red light illuminating swirling smoke. People flee, shouting, trying to douse the spreading flames. You run toward the cries but can't help. The dream fades, leaving despair mixed with fiery rage at your powerlessness. When you wake, you're not in your familiar tent, but in a smoldering papyrus field, under a faint dawn, the acrid smell of ash and bitter sand in your mouth. The dream forces a question: is your current life a continuation of that past one? Are the pains, dreams, and rituals you endure atonement for deeds in another life? You sit there, watching tiny flames flicker in the field, feeling trapped between past and present, life and death, dreams and reality. In that moment, you understand your journey isn't just surviving ancient Egypt's mysteries and dangers, but a profound search for yourself, a search that may never end, but some secrets shouldn't be known. And you, with all your experiences, dreams and whispers from the spirit world, have become one who knows too much. One morning, walking through a narrow Thebes alley, cloaked figures in black emerge from shadows, surrounding you, blocking escape. They're secret priests, guardians of temple mysteries known only to the chosen. They say little, only press hands on your shoulders, pulling you through damp, dark corridors you've never seen. In a small room, they lock you in with a bowl of thick black liquid, reeking of herbs and bitter sharpness. An old priest hands you the bowl, his eyes cold, voice like desert wind. Drink, to forget what shouldn't be remembered. You panic, try to resist, but those around bind your hands with coarse linen cords. You have no choice. The bitter liquid floods your throat, seeping into your stomach, each drop severing ties to the past. Dizziness hits fast, your mind spinning like a sandstorm. Images and memories you've held fade, replaced by an invisible void you can't fill. You no longer remember who you were, what you saw, the trances, rituals, or lost souls, but your body can't forget. You feel the pain of rituals, the chants, the trusting or fearful eyes. You know your memory's been erased, but you're alive. That's what the priests wanted. A living person who knows nothing, no threat to their system. When you wake, you're on a straw mat, body weak, head dizzy, mind empty as a broken jug. A woman kneels beside you, gently touching your forehead, whispering, "You've been cleansed. Now begin again." You look around, seeing no familiar faces, no temple, no boat, no figures from your ritual maze. Just you, and a deep sense you've been cut off from everything, once called the past. But deep within, a small part clings to a final memory fragment, a faint, stubborn voice. Remember, find it again. You don't know whose it is, yours, or an unliberated soul clinging to you. You live the next days as a lost soul, no memories, no name, just a body existing in a world of rituals, stories, and divine eyes. But as if fate refuses your forgetting, fractured images return, in dreams, waking moments, dawn's faint light. You dream of boats, faces, chants, and a talking cat. You dream of yourself, then and now, in the same body but different worlds. And you understand, though forced to forget, though memories were erased, a vital part of you endures, and it will never stop seeking truth, even if that truth costs everything. One morning, you wake not on a cold straw mat in a dark room, but in a luxurious chamber, soft light filtering through thin curtains. The scent of lotus, resin, and fragrant oils fills the air, startling you. You feel the gentle touch of a hand on your scalp and neck, soft whispers around your ears, skilled fingers applying oil to your forehead, temples, and wrists. You try to open your eyes, but your memory remains foggy as Nile dawn mist. No recollection of rituals, trances, underworld flights, or bizarre dreams of boats and masks. You don't know who you are, why you're here, or who brought you to Isis's court. Before you, women in pure white gowns, wearing cat's eye and lotus necklaces, smile gently, saying nothing, tending to you with care and patience. They place a golden cat's eye amulet on you, a symbol of power and protection, believed to ward off evil and guide souls through the darkest realms. When you try to sit up, one gently pushes you back, her eyes compassionate but firm. Not yet. Rest and let your soul align. The days that follow pass in a cycle of gentle rituals, soft prayers and long trances. You can't remember anything, only feeling a false peace, like a fragile shell hiding inner storms. But deep down, a small part of you remains skeptical, uneasy. You're no longer ordinary. You know you've seen things few dare face. And now, you're held in Isis's court, not as a prisoner, but as something protected, nurtured to become whole again. One day, as your attendants perform a hand-washing ritual with lotus water and oils, you see yourself in a small mirror on the table. The reflection is unclear, features vague, eyes undefined, yet holding undeniable power and mystery. You touch the mirror, as if to touch yourself, but the image dissolves like smoke. Fractured memories return, dreams of boats, souls, bloody rituals, and fiery light. But they're blocked by a thick veil you can't yet pierce. An older woman, likely the attendant's leader, sits beside you, saying softly, "You'll remember when the gods deem it time." Don't rush. You try to ask, "What time?" She only smiles, placing a golden cat's eye amulet in your palm, when you can see clearly, without pain. The days after, you live half awake, half dreaming, caught between memory layers and ceaseless rituals around you. Your body recovers, skin softer, health stronger, but your mind remains turbulent, full of unanswered questions. You're no longer an outsider. You're part of a living ritual, a bridge between the tangible world and the spirit realms, you glimpsed in dark dreams. And though you don't remember, though you can't speak, you know your journey isn't over. It's just begun, a dangerous, mystical, radiant journey. But you haven't truly begun. For all you've endured, rituals, underworld flights, bizarre dreams, and divine encounters, is only the start of the initiation rite. Lying in the small room, dim light through thin curtains, incense and lotus scent filling the air, you think you've reached the peak of your spiritual journey, but a stranger appears, not a priest, not a sorcerer, but a man with razor-sharp eyes, his voice cold, clear, decisive. He doesn't give his name, only says, "All you've seen, experienced, is but a weak beginning, compared to what's coming." He brings a small flask of clear liquid, a deep green light, shimmering within. "You'll drink this, and you'll truly fly." You look at the liquid, sensing its difference instantly. Not like anything from past rituals, not a mix of wine, herbs, or resin. This is distilled purely from rare plants, flowers, and magical ingredients only high priests may touch. You know drinking it is irreversible, but too far down this path, you have no choice but to obey. As you swallow, a surge of heat spreads through you, each cell awakening, senses expanding infinitely. You don't just sense the world, but see energy currents flowing through space, divine waves echoing from world layers. The intoxication isn't loud but serene, yet so powerful you feel detached from the physical world. You begin to fly, not like past rituals or dreams, but truly leaving your body, floating through soul layers and cosmic light. You're not human, but a light entity, piercing stone walls, gliding over muddy rivers, merging with the universe's sound. But this flight isn't solitary. You meet other souls, some seeking truth, others trapped between layers. Some are friendly, some malicious. You learn to discern, avoid darkness, and connect with light to avoid being swept into an endless abyss. And then you realize, the true initiation isn't what you've endured, trances, dreams, chants, or facing dead souls. It's complete transformation, the dissolution and rebirth of your being. You must prepare to let go of all things material, to embrace the uncertainty of existing between realms, and so the true initiation begins. A journey without end, without retreat, only forward into the deepest soul layers and metaphysical worlds. You sigh, feeling exhaustion, but brimming with hope. For no matter how long or perilous the path, you know you're not alone. You've crossed a threshold into a new world, the world of those who truly fly. Then one day, the final dream comes, unlike any before, lasting 4 days, consuming every waking and dreaming moment, erasing the boundary between reality and illusion. You're no longer on a straw mat or in a warm room, but lost in a vast realm of water and light, where silent waves lap against purple stone shores. Before you is a divine water mirror, smooth as glass, reflecting a silver-clouded sky, crescent moon, and distant stars. You look into it, seeing not just your current face, but layered images, faces from past, present, and future, fused into a chaotic whole. You step closer, fingers touching the cold surface, and the images come alive. It's you, but in another form. A young you in a temple, holding a sword, eyes gleaming with resolve and deep sorrow. You see yourself preparing for an unending battle between light and darkness, order and chaos. A voice echoes in your head, not human, but like thunder in a clear sky. You must choose to live in illusion, or face the truth. You don't answer. You know the answer isn't simple words. At the mirror's depths, darkness forms, distorted shapes, ancient wraiths, unliberated souls. They look at you with pleading, threatening eyes. You feel the past's weight on your shoulders, but also a latent strength in each breath. You understand this dream isn't just a vision, but a final test, a chance to choose your path amid interwoven fates. 4 days pass, living in that dream, Not eating, not sleeping, feeling no time. You merge with water and light, touching each shadow and ray, realizing you can't flee the past, but must embrace and harmonize with it. When you wake, you're by the Nile's bank, drenched in sweat, heart racing, but your mind strangely serene. You know the journey is long, but you're ready to face deeper soul layers, unseen trials, and the truth behind ancient Egypt's mysteries. In that moment you smile, for no matter how long or hard the journey, you're no longer alone. One morning, as the sun's first rays pierce the thin curtains of a cold stone room, you wake no longer the lost, vague figure of the past. You've transformed, not just in body, but in soul. You've become a high priest, keeper of sacred rituals, fire and knowledge, guiding crowds in ancient ceremonies, bearing the responsibility to balance the mortal and divine worlds. But truth is never as simple as praise. At times you wonder, are you truly a priest, or just a madman worshipped by others? The dreams, vague memories, sounds and images loop endlessly in your mind. You recall the sunboat, the long chants, the smell of fish fat mixed with cannabis, the talking cat, the collective circumcision under a full moon. Each ritual, each trial, has carved indelible marks in your mind. No matter how you try, you can't escape the past's wraiths, the gods' whispers, or the tug between reason and spirituality. People look at you with reverence, believing you embody sanctity and power. They hang on your every word, chant and ritual instruction. But deep within, doubt lingers. You question whether you're maintaining balance between man and God, or caught in an inescapable spiral of madness. You look in the mirror, your face no longer fully yours, eyes deep with secrets no one else can grasp. In that moment you realize the journey, full of pain, fear, and ambiguity, was the only path to becoming who you are, a high priest, or a madman worshipped, depending on perspective. But you know one thing, there's no way back. You've become part of a mythic tale, a piece in ancient Egypt's grand tapestry, and you'll walk that path between light and darkness, truth and myth, man and God, until the final secrets are revealed, or until you become an unbreakable legend. The story of ancient Egypt's challenging journey and complex rituals is not just an adventure into the past, but holds valuable lessons for modern life in the United States today. First, the protagonist's perseverance through painful rituals and physical and mental trials reminds us that in modern life, facing work pressures, personal challenges, or mental struggles requires resilience and unwavering commitment to goals for success. Second, the story highlights the importance of balance, mart, symbolizing order and harmony, which relates to maintaining work-life balance and physical and mental health in a modern society where stress and pressure can disorient us. Additionally, the rituals involving flight or profound spiritual experiences emphasize connecting deeply with oneself, recognizing emotions and inner thoughts, a practice mirrored in meditation, mindfulness, or yoga, increasingly popular in the US, to reduce stress and enhance life quality. Finally, the protagonist's forced forgetting of memories or ritual-induced trances underscores the importance of preserving personal history and memory, the roots that help us understand ourselves and make wise decisions. In a dynamic modern US society, this story reminds us not to let external pressures erase who we are, but to cherish, respect the past, and seek harmony in life. If you find ancient Egypt's mystical journey captivating, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to catch more unique and vibrant historical stories. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video to explore more untold mysteries.